Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Luella. I'm a Catholic psychotherapist, and one of my biggest jobs, I think, is to help you get answers to some questions you have. And quite often I find I'm helping people bridge conversations with people they love. And, I'm challenged the same way. I mean, I'm a mother of three children, and despite, our family being Catholic, and I guess I'm the only one that you could say is an actively practicing Catholic, not to say I'm above my other family, but I mean, I go to church every week, and that's one way. There's other ways that I'm not going to get into here, but I've, over a year ago, I was just like the rest of my family. I prioritize other things other than God. And again, I'm not saying I'm better than the rest of my family. I just know where I find the most joy. And yeah, so I am often hit with questions about, my faith from my family or from others, kind of asking me, why have you come closer to God? And like I said, being a practicing Catholic, because there's a lot of Catholics out there. There's a lot of Christians out there that say they are who they are and yet don't do the minimal things that we are asked to do of someone with faith. So today I want to help you answer a question or a topic that I was confronted with my three adult children. And that is, well, pro-choice over pro-life, and uh, again, when when we're faced with these discussions, one person is often confronted with an extreme case and how to explain the extreme cases. And in this instance, one of my children said, "Okay, Mom, what about the 14-year-old who was raped in the back alley? You're telling me that's her responsibility now and that she should prioritize the baby over herself after receiving this type of trauma?" And of course, my answer is yes. And let me explain how I explained it to my kids. Not that they took my side or anything like that after it, but I want to give you, a bit of a script. If you ever feel like you have a hard time explaining to your children why it's always pro-life, how we always have to prioritize life. So, okay, as a practicing Catholic, uh, we always have to prioritize life. It's that simple. There's no exception, even with these extreme cases, like I just explained to you, because we can't choose between mother and child. We love both, we protect both, and we definitely call for justice for the offender. Never do we justify violence towards the innocent. And this is it. They are both innocent. And that in Catholic teachings, we do see that there's two truths, not one. That the woman has been deeply hurt in this situation. Sorry, I have allergies at certain times of the year. The child is completely innocent here, but they're not enemies. The child and the mother, they are both clearly victims. And we have to always remember when, like, all life deserves to live. Like, what I mean, dignity, right? Like, even, I often talk about this in relationships too, between husband and wife. I mean, there's a lot of women that still have a lot of trouble with this idea of obedience and to their husband, or what does it mean for a man to be the leader of the family? That just seems crazy, in this day and age. But no, yeah, the husband has a certain role. He is typically, almost always, the stronger one physically. And his role is to die for his spouse, to die for his family, to protect his family. Always. He is the stronger one. The stronger one always protects the weaker. They're both equal as humans. They're both equal in their dignity, but one is typically stronger than the other. This is no difference than the mother and the newly conceived child in this instance. So it's never love to kill someone smaller and weaker to relieve our pain, our discomfort, our trauma. What is love is to walk beside the mother and to protect the growing child within her. We need to have all the compassion and care for this woman, right? We need to give her all the support, the emotional, the physical, the medical. She deserves all of that. And it's up to her after giving birth in terms of, well, is she capable of keeping this baby? Or does she have proper support for this? Or is it best to give this child up to, a loving family, a family that can't conceive, an adoption agency? That's a whole other, topic. And it's of her choice, her family's choice. But this is where the catechism, the church teachings come into play. It's not a question of whether it's life after conception or not. This is life. From the moment of conception, there's life. And the unborn has the rights of every other person on this earth. And even more so because this child is the one who's weaker and vulnerable and doesn't have a voice. Direct abortion is never allowed. Medical care that saves a mother's life is allowed if the baby's life is not. But what I'm trying to say here, in certain instances where, how do we choose here? Again, another extreme case of, let's say the mother is giving birth and there, there, there is a strong, strong chance that the baby will die if there's not medical intervention, but it might mean that the mother will die instead. Again, the priority goes to the vulnerable, the weak in this case, the one that doesn't have a voice. I mean, those are really, really extreme cases. They're tough cases. But maybe if I can give you more like a real life example, perhaps. Like we don't ask for these things, like we don't ask to be raped. We don't ask for this terrible situation where, one life has to be given over another. I mean, thankfully these are rare cases. But like what if you were a mother, you're in your home, you were going about your business, maybe you're getting ready to work, and all of a sudden there's a noise at your doorstep and you open the door and there's an innocent child on your doorstep. What do you do when there's no trace of anybody around? Do we just think, well, I don't have time for this, I got to get to work, and we would just get rid of the kid? No, it's our responsibility to take care of the weak, the vulnerable, the little baby, that doesn't have anyone to take care of it except you. You can't see this as any different in the case of a young woman being raped and a baby is conceived. We can't kill another person because of our inconvenience. And I know being raped is much more than an inconvenience. It is 100% trauma. As a therapist, I know that more than most, but what about the child? How do you not see the innocence of this child, the weak, the vulnerable? Why does this child deserve death? Because of some perpetrator? Of course not. that same love that you have for the mother, that same compassion and sorrow needs to be applied to the child. And yet, you know, the child is the weaker one. So I just wanted to make this little video because as a mother who has had these discussions with family members, I know that taking this stance is not easy, especially in the way that, our kids are being raised to be so liberal through school, through the universities. But I'm going to tell you, like, as a wife of a man, my husband who served the city for over 25 years of service as a first responder and has come across these very rape scenes, um, and other scenes where he stood face to face with the scum of the earth. I mean, there's no other way of describing it. I mean, I get it. Like we are all tempted to say yes to being a Catholic, except in these instances. But you have to realize that God has made no exceptions when he preached the Beatitudes and created the Ten Commandments. You know, if these were exceptions, he would have made it clear to us then. But God doesn't make mistakes. And you don't need to argue. You just need to witness and speak the truth. You need to plant the seed and, let grace do the rest. Like I believe me, after these discussions, my kids were like, oh, okay, great. Thanks for explaining that, Mom. I'm totally with you. Far from it. But, I just think that's our role. We need to guide our children and let them and plant the seed, like I said, and let God take care of the rest. Just because it's a really extreme, inconvenient, and no one wants to think of these cases, it makes no exception for prioritizing life, no matter what the situation. So, hope that helps. Take care, and we'll see you next week.